Welcome to week 6, day 5 of our e-learning lessons. This is our final day of looking at Arctic Journal and digging into each of the pages for comprehension questions and text evidence. Our performance task. I will need to be able to read parts of a story each day to answer comprehension questions. To answer them, I will need to go back into the text and support my answers with text evidence. At times, I will need to explain my answer to show that I really do understand what the questions are asking. For day 5 essential questions, how can I read the story and answer comprehension questions? How can I tell more about what I am saying in my answers? Today we're going to focus on pages 386 and 387. Just to get a quick idea what this page or these two pages look like. We see the ocean water. We see possibly some glaciers on the side, and we see the sun reflecting off the water. We have our final journal entry, March 12th, winging home. We also have a penguin egg that's up here in the corner. Let's look at our reading for today. March 12th, winging home. Before leaving, I collected, with permission, a sterile penguin egg that would never hatch. I made room for it in my suitcase by giving a lot of my clothes away. The airline lost my bag in Miami. I told the airline people that I had to have it back, pleading, begging. It has a penguin egg in it, I said. They glanced at each other and eyed me funny. Fortunately for me and them, they found the bag. The egg reminds me of my trip to the place where penguins raise downy chicks. Krill swarm in numbers greater than stars in the sky. Whales have rights, and icebergs drift in graceful arcs across southern ocean swells. At home, I'll look back at the desert landscape and remember the Antarctic desert, the last great wilderness on Earth. In our assignments today, we're going to be answering some questions together. And then once we get done answering the first 3 questions together, we're going to read the Hammerhead Sharks reading for your exit ticket, and then you'll need to finish your work on your own. On number 1, how does the illustration on page 386 match the last journal entry on page 387? When we look at page 386, we see that there's the water, we see everything that she's leaving behind, and then the journal entry for March 12th, winging home, was talking about her leaving Antarctica, talking about the things that she remembers the most, talking about the penguins, and the whales are protected, the penguins are protected, there's icebergs in the water, there's more krill in the ocean than there are stars in the sky. And she's thinking about Antarctica as a desert because it gets very little rain. She's thinking about her own home where she gets very little rain. So thinking about these 2 pages go together because they stand for her adventure. The penguin egg, and when she looks back, it all reminds her of her amazing trip that she took and her journal entry that reminds her of everything that she experienced. These 2 pages support each other because it truly reminds her of her amazing adventure that she had in Antarctica. So in looking at our answer for this one, it's a really clear and easy understanding of what it's about because she's focused on her trip. The penguin egg reminds her of her trip when she was sitting out there with the penguins in her typewriter and they came up and started tugging on the paper and tugging at her clothes. And she knows she can't touch them, but it was an amazing experience. And then when she got to take that sterile penguin egg home with her, which means it's never going to hatch, and it's a reminder of what she did. And also looking back over the water, it's just kind of like one final look back to say, man, this place is amazing. We look at question 2. Question 2 says, Why was the author so anxious not to lose the penguin egg? When she flew back and landed in Miami, Florida, they said they couldn't find one of her bags, and in that bag was that penguin egg. Why was she so nervous? If you're thinking about it, she was very lucky to be able to take any kind of egg back with her, because normally, if it's an egg that's going to hatch, it has to stay with the penguins. Unfortunately, this egg would never hatch, which means the baby inside would never be born. It's going to be part of that egg for the rest of time. It was never going to change. That egg is part of her nature, or part of the trip of Antarctica. It's going to help her remember that the 4 months that she was in Antarctica, it's going to help remind her that. So my answer, the egg is a reminder of her 4 months that she was in Antarctica. She doesn't want to lose anything. Yes, she has her journal. Her journal definitely reminds her of it. She took photographs and she took some sketches. But one thing that's going to be very special to her is that egg. Not many people get that opportunity to take a sterile egg from Antarctica home with them and keep it as a souvenir to remind them. And it's also something pretty amazing to show your friends by saying, let me show you what I got while I was in Antarctica on my adventure. On question 3, how are the places that the author lives, how are they similar to each other? I know the question is completely worded incorrectly, and I'm definitely going to fix it because it says how are where author lives. The question should be, how are the places that the author visited, for example, Antarctica and her place where she lives, how are they similar? If we think back at the beginning, where it says meet the author, I'm going to scroll all the way back up to the top. When it talks about our author, Jennifer Owings Dewey, it's talking about where she was from, what she did, and it talks about her life. So as we look at her life and where she's from, we know that she spent most of her time growing up in Tucson, Arizona. And we have that information throughout the reading and at the beginning of our book. Let me zoom back down to the end, back to where we're at for today. So how are the places that the author, where she lives, how is it similar to Antarctica? She lives in a desert herself, and that desert she lives in is in Arizona. Arizona gets very little rain, so if you don't get much rain, you're considered a desert. Antarctica might have a lot of ice or frozen water, but it doesn't get a lot of rain. Most of the water you see frozen is from the ocean. It's not from rainfall. So how are they similar? The two areas are similar because they both get very little rain. To be considered a desert, you get very little rain each year. So on that lasting part, or that last question for number 3 that we're going to work on, if you're considered a desert, you get very little rainfall each year, which means it's difficult for living things to survive there. Think about Antarctica. It doesn't get much of anything surviving there. It takes hundreds of years for just moss to grow. You think you're in Florida, you look at people's fences, you see that green moss growing in like 3 weeks. It like covers the entire fence. If you go out to a creek and pick up a rock, it's green and slimy. That moss has grown really quickly because our environment is great for it to grow. But areas where there's very little water or very little rainfall, things don't grow well. Not many things can truly live there. Number 4, I want you to think about what kind of text structure this is. So think about the text structure, and I want you to think, the reading that you just did, was it comparing and contrasting, talking about how things are similar and different? Was it putting things in order, chronological order? Was it describing one specific thing from the very beginning to the end? Was it talking about a problem and then given ways to solve that problem known as solution. Think about the journal entry. That's going to be a big clue to help you out with what kind of text structure it was. Now let's look at our final part. Hammerhead Sharks by Guy Bellerante. When they hear the word shark, many people think of the great white shark. While this shark is the largest and most ferocious fish in the sea, there's another shark I find equally interesting. This shark is the hammerhead shark. Actually, there are 9 different species or types of hammerhead sharks. The smallest is only 3 feet long. The largest, the great hammerhead, can grow to nearly 20 feet. What makes all 9 so interesting is their flat hammerhead or hammer-shaped heads. With an eye on each end of the hammer, this large spacing between eyes gives the hammerhead shark a much wider field of vision than other sharks. Such vision is great for spotting prey. What kind of prey do they hunt? Other fish, including smaller hammerheads. Squid, octopuses, crustaceans are all commonly eaten. And of course, there's also the hammerhead shark's favorite meal, stingrays. The hammerhead shark sometimes uses its head to pin stingrays to the seafloor. Hammerheads have small mouths for sharks. Their triangle-shaped teeth are serrated and sharp. Like other sharks, a hammerhead has special sensing organs called electroceptors in its head. These sensors detect the movement and vibrations of prey. They can even help a hammerhead find prey hiding beneath the sand on the seafloor. Like all sharks, hammerheads have a great sense of smell. They have a pair of nares, which are like nostrils, right below their snout. Once a shark picks up the scent of its prey, it can follow the smell for many miles until it finds its meal. Most fish lay eggs. Sharks are the exception because their young are born alive. Most hammerhead sharks give birth to as many as 40 or 50 young or pups. During the day, hammerhead sharks swim in schools. At night, they usually hunt alone. One of the 9 species of hammerheads, or of the 9 species of hammerheads, only 3 can be dangerous to humans. The scalloped, great and smooth hammerheads. The great hammerhead is among the fiercest fish in the ocean. Even though they can be very dangerous animals, there have been less than 50 known hammerhead attacks on humans. Still, I wouldn't want to swim with one. Concerns have grown in recent years about the fading numbers of some hammerhead shark species. One reason they have become endangered is overfishing. The hammerhead's extra tall dorsal fin is considered a delicacy and is used to make sharp fin soup in some parts of the world. About the author. Guy Bellerante works as a docent at Reed Park Zoo in Tucson, Arizona. The information in this article comes from his experiences working with wild animals and teaching others. To finish up your work today for your exit ticket, you have 6 exit ticket questions you need to finish up. So make sure you take time to read all 6 of these questions and make sure you answer them with text evidence from the short reading about hammerhead sharks. Make sure you finished up your 45 minutes for reading and your 45 minutes for math on iReady Reading and iReady Math. Once you finished all your work this week, please take time to send it back to your teachers for us to check over it and see if we disagree or agree with your answers, and we can give you some feedback. Thank you for participating in week 6 of day 5 of our e-learning lessons.